Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Random Rants with Brooklyn. It's your host speaking. Today's rant is going to be about vocabulary in books and what should and shouldn't be said, and also some of my own personal experiences as an author. So, first of all, let's get into the rant for the day, but first, I want to say I'm sorry for, ghosting you guys for, 3 months has it been? I just had no motivation to record or sit down and write a script. The last script I wanted to do, I kind of gave up on it because I was like, you know what? It's fine. We don't need to do that. So, I had this idea, so I wrote the script. So, yeah, let's get into it today. Let's get into the rant for today. Wow, I'm really rusty. Okay, so the first thing is vocabulary words that should not be used or should be limited in how they're used, and there's only certain contexts that they should be used. The first word is salty. Like when someone calls someone else salty, like they were being salty earlier. Like what? We're not Lot's wife. We're not salty. Let's not use that. Let's refrain from using that. They were giving me a salty look. It irks me somehow. Anyway, the next one is growled. Not hissed. There's a difference. Growled, it's like, I want to know what your brain was thinking when you said that. But there is, certain novels, like The Warrior Cats, growled can be used, because in Warriors, it's a she, I think it's a she. The author uses those words instead of saying said or asked, because it's cats talking, so it makes sense in there. But hissed, I'm fine with it, because when you say something, really curt, you shouldn't have done that, you hiss it out. There's a certain level of dialogue that you can actually hiss the words out. Purred. Why are you purring? I've seen this in some romance books. This is why I don't like reading romance books. Why are you purring? It doesn't make sense why you're purring your dialogue. But those growled, hissed, purred, they can all be used in, certain books. There are exceptions, like The Warriors. Anyway, moving on from that, there's not really much dialogue that I really thought of while reading. But yeah, if you guys have other stuff, let me know. If you think of stuff where you're like, oh yeah, definitely, don't use that word anymore. It's weird. Here, we're now moving on to nicknames that should be banned. Why are they being used so often? Kitten, little mouse, little bird, pet, why? We are not animals. Girls are not animals. I don't know why you're calling us, kitten, little mouse, little bird, pet, what? We're not your pet, we're not your animal. We are human beings. Thank you very much. Vice versa. Little anything, really. It's we're not in a fan fiction. We are not 4'8". You're not 6'3". Why are you calling us little? It's actually really annoying when I read those nicknames. It just, Cotton. I kid you not, I have read this in several books. A nickname for a person was Cotton. And I was like, what? The cottontail bunny or the plant? Either way, it's just weird. And now we're moving on to nicknames that are pushing it. It's verging, it's on the edge of me going, okay, that's enough, that should just be banned. Doll. There's a limit. If you say doll, every sentence where you're like, oh, hi, doll. Oh, yeah, doll. You're a doll. I'm like, what? How many times can you use that name for it to not, it just doesn't feel like a word at this point. And then darling is the same as doll. There's a limit. When you say darling every 2 sentences, I'm like, this doesn't seem like a word. It's weird. Please stop. Princess is also, there's a limit. There's a limit for how many times you can say princess, and firecracker. Both of those. It's it's sweet, but if you're saying princess every 2 sentences when you're talking to the person, you're like, princess, I love you, princess. Anything for you, princess. I'm like, what? Okay, moving on. And then mine. It honestly depends on the context and how the book's going, but if this person is overly possessive in the book and it's mine, you're mine, anything for mine, and I'm like, it's if you don't touch what's mine, I'm like, please, no, we're not an over possessive, that's not a thing, we don't like that. Okay, thank you, please back up. And then I feel if it's like mine, like your mine type of thing, like it's a sweet context, then I'm fine with it. But if you're just saying you're mine constantly, like don't touch what's mine, like they're their own person. There's a difference. Okay, moving on from the nicknames thing, because that honestly, nicknames. There's boundaries for like what I'm accepting and what I'm not accepting. Now I'm gonna go on to defending the word said. There's a limit, but it isn't dead. Said isn't dead. Authors, if you're like a recent author, if you're like a new author, if you're like a non-published author, or even if you're like a published author and you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I know the thing we always say is said is dead. There's a limit to how many times you can use said, but it's not dead. Genuinely speaking, it's not. Like, just look at so many like famous, well-known authors. Like Suzanne Collins. I think I said her name right. I hope I said her name right. Like, if you read The Hunger Games, she speaks, the characters are in first person and in present tense, which writing in present tense is hard as it is. Like, I cannot for the life of me write in present tense. It's very difficult, and it's very congratulations if you can write in present tense easily. It's really difficult, but she says say a lot. Like, the characters say a lot, which in the equivalent is said, because obviously if it was past tense, it would be said. But she uses that a lot, but it's not like, she also uses other words too. It's not just I said this, I say that, I say this, he say that, he says this type of a thing. Rick Riordan, however you pronounce his last name, that guy, he uses said in his books too. It's not like he completely avoids the word, but there's other words as well. Like, it's not out of the context, but it's incorporated frequently in the books. And then Holly Jackson, she uses said a lot too. Obviously, it's not the only thing that's being used, but it's sprinkled here and there. It's not like you're completely avoiding it. And then, like, in my personal opinion, I have a history of avoiding the words. Like, it took me so long to realize that it's really hard to make a book make sense if you completely avoid the word said. Like, it was like, I avoided it at all costs. If I could find an alternative that made sense, I would use it. But said, genuinely speaking, you can't really, it doesn't make sense to completely avoid the word, because said is a part of our vocabulary. When we're talking to people on a daily basis, we say, oh, this person said this person said that, I am going to say this, I said that, type of a thing. You do use it in your actual vocabulary, and it is a genuine word that it's hard to avoid. So even though as authors we always tell ourselves said is dead, it's not. It genuinely is not. And I think that we avoid it so often because when we first start writing, people always tell us said is dead, but it's not. It really isn't, because we can't have it doesn't make sense to keep it out. It reads better if you use it. It just makes more sense if you use the word said. And I always think, as much as, of course, you gotta learn to use other words, it actually helps you expand your vocabulary. I've found out more words and synonyms for said and asked than I have if I didn't used to avoid said. But obviously now I use it, because I've realized it does read better if you use the word said. It does make more sense. Obviously, asked is another thing. Like, we don't really have something for that, but you usually find a way to say questioned, or yeah, for said, you usually also, I don't know, I didn't really have another synonym for asked. Questioned, intrigued, interrogated. That sounds weird. But for said, you usually find replied, responded, commented, spoke. That doesn't really make sense. Answered, and all these other synonyms for said. It expands your vocabulary, but at the same time, it's it's kind of dumb when we made ourselves avoid it. And I avoided it so much because everyone always told me said is dead, and I didn't want to come off as like this little author who didn't know vocabulary. But it also, if you use too much big words, it's gonna not make sense. Like, I would start using words that would be so, I don't want to say intelligent. What's the word? It sounded like I was just trying to use big words for a small sentence. Like, I would just be having a conversation between characters, and I would use this person responded, this person commented, this person replied, this person answered, this person remarked, and I would just completely avoid the word said, and it makes more sense, it flows nicer if you incorporate the word. And as much as, like I've been saying for the past, I think I've repeated myself so many times, said is not dead, but there is a limit to how much you want to use the word said and how much you want to use it. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for today. But I'm sorry for ghosting you guys. I will try. I promise I will try to come back and do it more frequently. It honestly depends on my motivation and if I can write the script for it, because I don't just go in and talk, even though that would be kind of crazy if I did that. But thank you for sparing your time and ears to listen to Random Rants with Brooklyn. Hope to have you come back and listen again soon. If you have any suggestions for future rant requests or improvement ideas, let me know. Thanks and goodbye.